Throughout the Hall of Origins, the echoes speak the daring story of one masked mallard. He is the terror that flaps in the night. He is the winged scourge that pecks at your nightmares. Actually, how many ways did he have to describe himself?
I am the metal key on the sardine can of justice. I am the hair in the lens of your projector. I am the spider who nips at your neck.
Ew. And that's just a small sample. It must have been fun for the writers to come up with different lines for his intro in every episode. But he is Darkwing Duck, one of the best characters to ever come out of the House of Mouse. Let's go back a few decades and explore his origins. In 1990, Disney made one of the greatest decisions ever, creating a 2-hour block of cartoons to put on TV for all the kids to watch once they got home from school. This marvelous group of animated shows was known as the Disney Afternoon, and at its start contained a show called DuckTales. Now, if you're not familiar with DuckTales, it followed Scrooge McDuck and his nephews Huey, Dewey, and Louie going on all sorts of adventures, along with his personal pilot Launchpad McQuack, and in later seasons, his money bin security guard, Gizmo Duck. When episode 48, 00 Duck, was released, it put Launchpad as the starring role, playing as an undercover spy. And another episode titled The Masked Mallard was released later about Scrooge McDuck dressing up as a superhero and going around Duckburg fighting crime. Now, at the time, these two adventures just seemed like normal episodes. And they were, but they served as inspiration for the creative team to make a spin-off show with Launchpad now going by the name of 00 Duck, and each episode would be about the adventures he would have in the spy business. But having Launchpad being the lead didn't last very long, and a brand new character that would take on the 00 Duck name was created. There was only one problem. Disney couldn't get the rights to the 00 Duck name. As it turns out, the Broccoli family, and yes, that is their name, I think of those one characters in that DuckTales episode. You know what I'm talking about? You know, the ones with those aliens who are vegetables? Well, anyway, this family owns the name 00 and all the other rights to the James Bond franchise. So, long story short, Tad Stones, the creator put in charge of this project, had to come up with a new name. Writer and producer Alan Burnett came up with the name Darkwing, and Tad Stones himself added Duck onto the end of it. The character of Darkwing Duck himself was inspired by several other fictional characters, namely Batman, the Green Hornet, and the Shadow. And it's actually the Shadow that his secret identity name comes from. The Shadow's real name is Kent Allard, and Darkwing's is Drake Mallard. Now, when it comes to personality, Darkwing isn't really the best role model, and that's kind of weird to say for a superhero. Because when you think of most heroes, you think of putting others ahead of yourself, or setting aside what you want for the greater good. And even though Darkwing is a good guy, and you can count on him to save the day, he is 100% egotistical, and will oftentimes jeopardize his mission if his own sense of self is being overshadowed by others. Like in the two-parter Just Us, Justice Ducks, when he refused to be on a team just because he wanted to take all the credit of saving the city himself? Yeah, how many people have been put in danger just because of Darkwing Duck's ego? Like I said, he will get the job done, he just doesn't always go about it in the best way that are suited for the superhero title. But maybe that's one of the reasons he's so entertaining as a character. Because you know he means well, he just wants to be famous. You could probably do a whole psychological study on this, since there are so many episodes, well, there are 2 episodes actually, of him in the past as a little kid being bullied. So maybe he's just trying to look for acceptance, because he was constantly treated bad as a kid. That's deep. So now with Darkwing taking over as main character, Launchpad was now delegated to the role of sidekick. Kinda interesting when you think about it. Had they not decided to give the new show to Launchpad originally, he might not have even been a part of the show at all. But of course, this brings up the question, is Darkwing Duck canon to DuckTales? Ain't that the million-dollar question, actually? Because creator Tad Stone says that they are 2 separate universes, but the story implies that Darkwing takes place after. Like having Gizmo Duck appear in the show, and Launchpad referencing that the 2 of them used to work for the same person, namely Scrooge McDuck. So I guess 2 different universes where the exact same events happened? Makes perfect sense to me. Darkwing Duck ran from 1991 to 1992 and produced an impressive 91 episodes. 91 episodes in just 2 years! Man, that's impressive. So what happened after the show wrapped? Well, there was an attempt to put both Darkwing and Gizmoduck into a spin-off show that would be based around the Justice Ducks idea introduced in Darkwing Season 1. However, someone at the studio must have thought that Morgana, Neptuna, and Stegma weren't strong enough characters for a starring role, because this team would have a new roster. And this would have been a cool idea, but unfortunately it didn't make it to air. So what would come next for our hero? Well, it took a few years, but the Masked Mallard had a comeback in comic form in 2010. It was made by Boom Comics, and it was pretty good actually. I loved how they played homage to different Batman comic covers. Just a little bit extra for the fans. Unfortunately, the series didn't last very long and was cancelled a year later, but they tried again in 2016 with a brand new series, this one made by Joe Books. And it was excellent as well, but it only had 8 issues. Why do so many good comics get cancelled before their time? Jeez. But you can't keep a good character down, because he returned yet again, this time in DuckTales 2017 reboot, and it was great to see him in animation again. His design is much different, but of course it had to be to match the other DuckTales characters, but I actually kind of liked it, and even introduced Negaduck into this universe. Oh man, that is so cool. Hopefully soon he will have his own spin-off show again. Well, I mean, I guess new spin-off show, since he already was in a spin-off show, but you know what I mean.